we're gonna jump in and take a look at the top 5 Forge weapons, that's the Infinite Forge on Mercury, that you can pick up inside of the Curse of Osiris expansion. So there have been some mixed opinions about these weapons. Some of them have come across as being pretty lackluster, but there are actually a handful which are pretty nice. So I wanted to point those out in this video. Of course, there may be some that aren't on this list, so as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, guys. For some of the weapons in this video, I did use some friends' accounts, so thanks a lot to Easy for letting me try his weapons out, and also to T-Mal. I really appreciate you guys letting me try these things. So up first, we have the Traveler's Judgment 5. This comes from verse 5. Obviously, the numbers in the titles correlate directly to which verse they come from. This sidearm is really neat. We'll take a look at the perks first. So it's adaptive frame, well-rounded, reliable, and fires a 3-round burst, so it is a burst fire sidearm. That also puts it in the 491 rounds per minute category, which is the same as the Last Hope. In the sights, we've got Tactic SAS, as well as Target and Farpoint SAS. In the middle column, armor-piercing rounds, accurized rounds, or steady rounds. The final perk, the trait that we have on this weapon, is Headseeker. Body shots landed with the weapon increase precision damage for a short time. So of course, with this being a burst fire weapon, I guess it makes it eligible to have these kind of bonuses on it. I believe this is the first Headseeker sidearm that we've ever seen in Destiny. Now obviously in PvP, Last Hope has been a pretty strong weapon thus far, but Traveler's Judgment in terms of stats is incredibly competitive. So Traveler's Judgment has 84 stability versus the Last Hope, which has 82. You also have 45 range, Last Hope has 41 range. Of course these are, slightly higher, but it also has higher handling stat, a faster reload speed, and better recoil direction. So across the board, statistically, Traveler's Judgment is actually really good, technically better than the Last Hope. Of course it does have its own unique kind of handling element, the weapon model itself, so it's not exactly the same weapon, but I can say inside of PvP, it is an absolute monster. It's a really solid sidearm. Obviously you gotta control that recoil, make sure you're landing your shots and everything, but you will absolutely tear players down inside of the Crucible. Interestingly, the Headseeker perk doesn't actually proc on the UI, but in terms of damage, in the Crucible you're gonna see literally a bump from 26 critical damage to 27, so it's not an absolute ton of damage. Anything more than that would be pretty ridiculous, but nonetheless, it's a very good perk to have on this thing. The Last Hope archetype did receive a minor nerf inside of the December update, but they are still very potent, very good sidearms, especially in PvP, and Traveler's Judgment, man, it's just a monster. You've got to try it. Of course, the other bonus for this weapon is that Headseeker is going to be really nice in PvE content as well. So all around, Traveler's Judgment, I would say, is absolutely one of the best weapons you can pick up from the Forge, and it's going to be one of the best sidearms in the entire game, so don't miss out on this thing. Next though, we have the Infinite Paths 8, of course coming from verse 8. This is the energy pulse rifle from the Forge. Of course we did have the Machina Day 4, I think that's what it's called, and that's a real low rate of fire kinetic one, which hasn't been super popular. This one, however, is considerably better. So it is a lightweight frame energy pulse rifle. That's the same archetype as the Nightshade, 450 rounds per minute. We have arrowhead break, or corkscrew rifling, and then full bore in the barrels. The middle column has alloy magazine, accurized rounds, or drop mag, and then finally the trait for the weapon is Dragonfly. Precision kills create an elemental damage explosion. So overall it does have pretty good perks. Dragonfly is, a bit of a hit and miss one. Some people quite enjoy it and others are kind of put off by it because of course it harks back to Firefly, but it is a considerably less potent version of that perk. I still do think that it has, pretty good crowd control potential though, although I do absolutely agree it's nowhere near as good as the original perk. Now, Infinite Paths has a pinch less stability than something like Nightshade, also a little bit less range, although Infinite Paths does have higher handling and reload speeds. On top of this, it does have higher aim assist, which is also nice, and I'd really put this alongside the Nightshade as being, the best in class as far as these pulse rifles go. For me though, Infinite Paths would indeed be a better PvE variant simply because you have Dragonfly there. Even though it's not absolutely fantastic, to me, I think it's a more interesting bonus than Kill Clip a lot of the time, because it potentially works on all kills as opposed to after you've reloaded. I would however say that it's kind of the other way around in PvP content. I prefer to have Kill Clip. What you end up with though with this particular weapon, in my opinion, is one of the better pulse rifles you you can use in PvE content. We also saw the Heart of Time from FWC, which came with Dragonfly, but that was of course in a lower impact variety of pulse rifle, and I think this is, a really good place to be in PvE content, this 27 impact and 450 rate of fire kind of class. In the Crucible though, I will say that this is a very consistent pulse rifle. Of course, these things aren't in the absolute best position in the game, although they are one of the better archetypes. I'd say that this is second best to the rapid fire frame archetype, which is the max rate of fire one. If you manage that recoil on this thing, and especially, you can consider throwing counterbalance mods on as well, and then just land your headshots, it feels really good and it feels very consistent. The increased aim assist also, is kind of noticeable on this weapon. So for me, there are absolutely times that I would rather use Infinite Paths over the Nightshade, especially in PvE content. I'd say it's in the top 2 pulse rifles in this class, also being one of the best classes of pulse rifle. And if these things ever get a bit of a buff, across the board, then they are going to be very, very good in my opinion. Next though, it's certainly going to have to be the Perfect Paradox, the shotgun that you get by completing the Same 14 quest. Of course, this is also a forged weapon. Now off the bat, a super unique weapon. It's a quest legendary, which is really cool, has the Same 14 icon on the side, as well as a pretty unique weapon model, which is certainly nice. The shotgun itself is rapid fire frame, so it is full auto, deep ammo reserves. You've also got quick reload there. It has full choke, as well as rifle barrel and smooth bore. We've got flared magwell, steady rounds and accurized rounds, and then rampage. Kills with the weapon temporarily grant increased damage, which stacks 3 times. So you've immediately got a fast firing, deep ammo reserve shotgun, which increases its damage as you make kills, and this can stack 3 times of course. So, in PvE content, it's an absolute monster, especially if you play with it in mind. You can kind of take out some lower tier enemies, take out a couple of mobs or something, get a quick reload perhaps, and then pump a whole load of rounds into a really tanky target while rampage is stacked up to 3 times. It's an absolute beast. On top of this, you have, really good options for the weapon. Flared magwell to reload quick is really nice on a shotgun. Steady rounds, which is gonna, control recoil and increase stability, which is good because this thing fires real quick. And then you've got accurized rounds to increase your range. So you've pretty much got every different possible option that you could really want on a shotgun. And yeah, it's an absolute monster. There's nothing else you can say in terms of shotguns for PvE content and just purely cool factor. This thing is an absolute monster. Grind those forge weapons, go do that quest, man. It's a beast. Next though, I wanted to point out the SMGs that you can get from the forge. I'm actually going to take a look at both of them. So we have the Soul Pariah 6. This is the energy SMG from the forge. It's 900 rounds per minute, so that makes it the lightweight frame class. We've got Arrowhead Break, Chambered Compensator, and Small Bore. In the middle column, Flared Magwell, Phase Magazine, or Ricochet rounds, and finally Grave Robber. Melee kills reload a portion of the magazine. I really like having Phase Magazine. That will increase damage while lowering the rate of fire, so it actually changes it from a 900 round per minute to the same archetype as the anti-OP. And that is a very competitive archetype inside of PvP. One of the things I find really fun about this weapon though is having Grave Robber. If you play really aggressively, whether it's PvE or PvP, you can kind of push up, fire the SMG, get plenty of melee kills, and then of course the melee kills will reload a portion of the mag. So for me, it's just really fun playing with the weapon in that way. And I'd say that it's absolutely one you should try versus the other SMGs in this class. Also having the Phase Magazine option does make this a more appealing SMG. But we also have the Conqueror 2 SMG, and this is another 900 round per minute weapon. So they are actually the same archetype. This one's kinetic though. It comes with hammer forged rifling, polygonal rifling, and fluted barrel. We have steady rounds, extended mag, tactical mag, and then the trait is Kill Clip. Reloading after a kill grants increased damage. Now, if I'm correct, this is the only Kill Clip SMG in this particular archetype, 900 rounds per minute. Of course, Anti-OPD also comes with Kill Clip, but of course, it does make this a pretty unique SMG in its class. If you run this with a kinetic mod or 2, it's actually going to be pretty stable for a 900 round per minute SMG. In PvP, it will absolutely shred as well. So all around, you get something pretty unique with this SMG. Personally, I'd hold on to both SMGs from the Forge. Each of them has, something different you won't get very easily elsewhere at least. The next weapon I'd look at though would be the Null Calamity 9. This is the auto rifle from the set. It is an energy auto rifle and it's adaptive frame, so it's 600 rounds per minute just like the Scathelock. It has chambered compensator, hammer forged rifling, and small bore in the barrel options. We've got flared magwell, tactical mag, as well as a pendant mag, And then finally, the trait Zen Moment. Causing damage with the weapon increases its stability. So, a few rounds into the mag, and you will actually start increasing your stability, so anytime you're going to be firing for a sustained period of time, which is kind of most of the time, Zen Moment will be active, inside of the Crucible and things like that when you're making kills. Compared to the Scathe Lock, the stats on this thing are actually pretty similar, with the exception of having lower stability. So Scathe Lock does actually have increased base stability by 9 points, which is a bit of a difference on an auto rifle of this class, although of course Zen Moment will help you out with the Null Calamity. But despite not having, super fantastic stats or anything, it definitely feels like a pretty sturdy auto rifle. In the Crucible, the 450 rate of fire autos have been pretty popular, but 600 round per minute ones also are, very consistent. It's worth factoring in that there was a minor change to the 450 RPM auto rifles with the December update, so it definitely stabilizes this archetype's position a little bit in the meta. And while I'd say, Null Calamity doesn't really stand out as being fantastic versus the other auto rifles in this class, it certainly doesn't fall off the radar either. So it's not the most exciting weapon in the world, but it can definitely sit in a list with the other popular weapons in this class without, being completely destroyed by them. For me though, the Traveler's Judgment 5, as well as the Infinite Paths 8, both are fantastic weapons. You then have two very good SMGs in my opinion, and I think the auto rifle has a lot of cool factor, and Zen Moment is a pretty nice bonus. So that is going to sum up this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts on these weapons, any that you've really been enjoying using. As I've mentioned, this is just my opinion, so you guys may feel differently. Definitely let me know in the comment section. But if you've enjoyed the video, a like is very much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, feel free to hit subscribe if you want to see more Destiny 2 content.